Good evening to everyone on the behalf of South Asia Christian Youth Network. So, we are a network of Christian youth leaders from South Asia, established in the year of 2002. Countries engaged, like we are from, representing from Bhutan, Bangladesh, India, Myanmar, Nepal, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. Second is all about inspiring, preparing, and strengthening young Christian adults to cross bridges to encounter and share their faith and lives with those who are from different circumstances, faiths, languages, and cultures, ethnicities, and nationalities. We organize annual events in the form of conference, leadership training, and core group meeting. So far we have organized 4 modular leadership training, 11 core group meetings, 3 large conference. If you'd like to know more about SACYN, please visit our website, www.sacyn.net. Today, the webinar is on finding hope in troubled times. And we have our friend moderator who is going to moderate, Insab Ravi from Pakistan. He will lead it. Thank you. Welcome to everyone.
Thank you so much, Vikas, for a very brief and yet comprehensive introduction to South Asian Christian Youth Network. We are moving towards our webinar topic, and our topic today is finding hope. All of us are struggling in so many ways to find hope amidst this so evolving situation of COVID. We are uncertain of what will happen, and a lot of people are struggling with their lives, with their careers, with their business, with their spiritual life. And this webinar, through panelists, will discuss about what a young person can do amidst all these challenges, and how a young person can locate themselves and find hope when these challenges are so much, or can be so much overwhelming to us. We have for our discussion the first panelist, Ariel Sara from Kerala, India. She owns Mermaid Bakers, and she comes from a wide experience of operating business. And whatever she does in life, she brings love of Christ into it. She serves in her local church and works with the young people and help them, counsel them in so many different ways. And we welcome her for today's panel discussion. For our second panel, Father Samuel from thank you, Father Samuel from Diocese of Colombo, Church of SACYN. He is Archdeacon of Jaffna Church, and he is former member of SACYN. He is SACYN alumni. He has been working as a youth chaplain for Church of SACYN for some time, and he is currently serving in many different roles within the diocese. We welcome you, Father Samuel, and thank you so much for your time. For our third panelist, we have Bijoy Adhicharya from India. He is a financial journalist, and he is part of Jacobite Syrian Church or Syrian Orthodox Church. He is also a core member of South Asian Christian Youth Network team, and he is an expert in communication training with a special focus on theater and speech. He works with young people in so many different ways. We welcome you as our third panelist for today's discussion. Thank you so much for your time. Without further ado, I just want to bring us together to understand what is happening in our context. And I would request from our first panelist, Ariel, to give a short comment on how she looks at the situation of COVID within South Asia.
Hi, everybody. I'm so glad to join you guys from here in Trivandrum. And for me, the last couple of years has been quite an intense journey of growth in a lot of senses. And the first being that my business, since I run it from home, it is flexible for me. I've had Mermaid Bakes for over 10 years, and it has been a growing journey for me. And especially once COVID hit, The fact that I was away from my business for a little bit in the beginning of COVID time, at first I didn't think much about it, but coming back from that hiatus into COVID, lockdowns, and not being able to operate at optimum or use my skills at optimum really took a toll on me for quite some time. And as was the scenario across the region that I live in, connecting with other business partners, suppliers who were calling and asking, "Do you have orders for me? Can we assist you with something?" And likewise, reaching out to them and making sure they were okay. And what are the things that we can plug into our community, and reaching out, because one part of my business also works with reaching out to young people through baking. That was a huge concern as well. Not being able to physically do a lot of things made it very challenging, because baking is not something you can do online and just like, hey, try this piece of cake. It does not work. So that was a really hard route or a pill to swallow for me. But going forward, things did get innovative and things did open up in a variety of ways that didn't occur to me in the beginning. So that was something that I was really thankful for, and it also brought a lot of alliances with local businesses.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'll move towards our second panelist, Father Samuel. Father Samuel, you come from a rich pastoral care experience, and you have seen a lot of people who have suffered from the grief of departed for their loved ones, and also seen a lot of things, a lot of young people reaching you for the counseling. How do you see the current emerging situation?
Hi everybody, it's nice to be back with SACYN once more after a lapse of about 5 years. Thank you for having me here. So the last 2 years, I think, has been one of the most challenging times for the church in general. Sri Lanka has gone through a 30-year war, so we thought that was the worst that we could face. But COVID taught us that there's much more to come. So first of all, as a church, we were found out to be wanting in many ways, because we were so comfortable in how we dealt with people, or how we looked at God, how we looked at change. And COVID taught us that change sometimes is forced on us, and unless it is forced on us, the church will not go forward. So that is a very hard lesson that we had to learn. And and how we deal pastorally also was all challenged, because we believed in presence, and COVID did not allow us to be present. And we saw people unable to be present even at the funerals of their loved ones, people who are unable to even say bye to their loved one. Therefore, people are without closure because of the forced cremations in Sri Lanka. It became a very big issue. So that is another issue that we had to deal with. The third issue is the whole finding it difficult to breathe. So on the one hand, people were finding it difficult to breathe due to COVID. And on the other hand, because of being claustrophobic, people were forced to stay indoors, and they could not use the normal escapism methods of how they cope with realities of family, of spouse, of children, of youth. So they would use work as a means of escape, or meeting out with friends as a means of escape. So these things were all blocked due to COVID. So these were all difficult challenges, but I hope that we will take forward with us the lessons we learned from COVID, and post-COVID will be different to pre-COVID.
Thank you, Father Sam. One of our participants for today's webinar, Veena, has also shared her thought that this has been a very challenging situation, and there is a need to rethink, and that's why we think that this is important. This moment, these webinars are very important to rethink how we connect with each other and amidst all this challenging situation. So we have seen, we can get a sense of what is happening in the lives of people amidst COVID in a spiritual aspect, in personal ways. But also one way COVID has affected us is in financial terms. And I would like to invite our third panelist, Bijoy, who comes from a very huge experience of reporting in financial avenues. How does he see this situation?
Okay. Thank you for having me on this side of the table for a change. First of all, just want to thank everybody who's taken out time, because there is a lot of webinar fatigue and screen fatigue. So whoever's joined, thank you very much for joining in. Also, like Reena has just posted, feel free to drop in your comments, because you can't be a specialist on how to deal with COVID, because we're all trying to wing it. In various ways, we are trying to wing it. I think the economy has also been trying to wing it, to put it nicely. Everybody, including the ministers, this is all new. So there is food in one part of the country, but there's no food in another part of the country. Food is at the port, but the port is not open enough because there are COVID restrictions over there. The food is not reaching the right. From that point onwards, to the bankers having money, but nobody being eligible to lend to. So in that sense, the universe has completely changed, because normally if you have deposits, a bank is happy to lend. But that has changed, because I don't know whether for example, Ariel runs a bakery business. I don't know if the food business will continue in the same way, whether F&B, outside people going and eating, will come back in the same way. We believe it will, but the world has changed. How we consume entertainment has changed, which is why Netflix and Amazon and whatever is today our parents watch. Forget me, my 8-year-old dad watches. So that universe is changing. Okay, so all of this has an impact on the economy, has an impact on how we live. Most importantly, what has changed is how we all communicate. So the economy will have an impact, financial world will have an impact. If I do not travel, that means I'm not taking a cab to the airport. I am not packing my bags. I am not doing all of those things. Then I'm not booking a ticket, so a travel agent doesn't make money. Then I'm not taking the flight, so there are 50 people who I touch point with during that travel. Normally, this session would have happened over, a few of us traveling down to one country and catching up and spending time together. All of that is not happening, and when that doesn't happen, economy is collapsed. This is not to give a dire straight situation. This is to say that we have figured out, right? There are methods to work around. We are doing this right now. So the economy is also trying to figure it out. A lot of our reactions have been knee-jerk when it happened in 2020. When we look at it in 2021, things are fine-tuned. We know what to do. We know how to deal with it. So a second lockdown, people were better prepared for, which means human behavior is changing. The economy is changing. Things, how we are reacting is changing. The only difference is, even now, we do not know whether the pre-COVID will ever come back in the same shape. If I'm comfortable watching a movie on my screen or my laptop on my whatever big screen TV, will I go back into a movie theater where there are 600 people and there is anxiety? That's the whole economy that is going to get affected. Same thing applies, and we were just joking about it earlier. Same thing applies to a church. If I can watch it online and it is live and I'm participating, what stops me from continuing to do that and not coming into the church? All of these are genuine issues that we have to grapple with. Like I said, none of us is an expert. There is hope because we are finding solutions, but today's solution may not be the final solution, but we are working on those solutions. I think that is the best point to leave this question at.
Thank you, Bijoy. You have said a lot of things, and I believe that we are together to find a solution, or not a solution, even to find a path where we can walk and find ourselves with this whole uncertainty. I agree that this situation has taken us as a surprise, and we are still unable to find a lot of things. Father Sam, you come from a lot of pastoral experience. I say that because you also understand how young people in SACYN think and how young people in Asia think and all that. And these are very, very pertinent questions. But I want to ask you, how do you see God in this situation? Because a lot of young people who are afraid of all what is happening around, they tend to ask themselves, where is God amidst all this situation? I know this is a big question, but I would request you to to give to give a little bit of your insight on this. How can young people locate themselves amidst all these challenges in their spiritual life?
This question is as challenging as COVID was to all of us, I guess. So where is God? I think that's a very I wouldn't say interesting question, but a difficult question. Very often we have created a God and we have given a type of God to our people, and now we are struggling to defend the God we have created. So that is my first response. I think we are challenged a lot because we live in a very consumeristic society, and very often we as the church have also got caught to the consumeristic world, and we think that God is a God who is a God of prosperity and a God who gives health and wealth and happiness. And therefore, when prosperity is not there, when health is not there, we have to defend that God. But on the other hand, God of the Bible, God of the Old Testament and the God of the New Testament is a God who is with people in their happiness and of course in their suffering. The psalmist says in Psalm 23, even though I walk through the valley of death, thou art with me. So God is with us even as we go through this crisis. God has been with us even as we went through this crisis. But unfortunately, we haven't tuned ourselves to see God in our suffering, because we tend to say that if someone suffers, it's a punishment. But Jesus suffered, all his disciples suffered, the prophets suffered. So God is with those who suffer. So if we have lost our job, God is with us. If you have lost a loved one, God is with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Father Sam. And you have also mentioned a very pertinent point that which has become a huge and emerging reality in Asia. A lot of people have lost their jobs and they are still working to find their way and how to deal with this situation. Ariel, you come from a you come from a background where you have worked as a person who in this situation is operating your business and also helping young people to see and locate themselves in this situation. So what do you suggest, or how do you see a young person can find their path in restarting a business maybe, or restarting their lives in this situation?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, even during COVID times, it was almost like I needed to restart how I do things. And a lot of that really depended on me just waiting on the Lord. Because and that was one of the verses, like in Isaiah 40:31, it says, those they that wait on the Lord will renew their strength. And I really felt like coming from 2020 into 2021 and all through 21 has been a reflection of that. So as I remember walking into a session one time, and I was having a conversation with the facilitator, and they were saying, if you don't know what to do what you know until you get the next step. And I think that's something that I really followed through this season, and I encourage the young people that I walk with to do. If you don't know what to do next, things are uncertain. You don't know when classes are going to start, what, all the fatigue that you experience being on Zoom calls all day. Things are not clear. You're not understanding the material. Likewise, in business, when you try to figure out how to coordinate food suppliers, especially because, like Vijay was saying, some things are available, but not, you don't know how to get it to yourself. What is the route that it's going to take? And so sourcing locally became more something that I needed to fine tune. So resources became a fine-tuned local ad hoc thing, whether it be manpower, whether it be raw materials, whether it be counseling resources. These were things that really needed to be focused within, say, 100, 200, 300, up to half a kilometer radius to a certain extent. And even when I work with people with their businesses, there's been so many sessions that have gone on across countries for me, like young people calling and say, Chichi, can we do this? Is it possible to do that? Yes, it is possible. As long as you have God in it, it is possible. As long as you know how to do things, um, you practice what you know how to do, something else will open up because you are fortifying your strengths, things that you know how to do, and, and you're prepared to take a leap of faith when necessary then. So when I work with young people, that is something that I've really enjoyed doing, is saying, hey, you know what? We have been working on this for say 2-3 weeks now. Let's try something new that's a little offbeat, and see where it takes us. So that sense of trying something new or doing something as a risk, or being creative about how we needed to approach a problem, business or otherwise, made more sense. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That is a very huge challenge, and linked with this is another challenge, because a lot of people are puzzled over this situation to select an appropriate path for their studies, and also they are struggling to find a career as well. And Bijoy, I think you've been helping a lot of young people in communication skills and been involved with a lot of young people back at your church. How do you see that in this situation, young people can find their path, their career path, or maybe select for themselves an appropriate educational discipline? And what do you suggest? How do you think about this situation?
There's no simple way of giving this answer. The job market has changed. The world has changed. The job market has changed. This is a job market where one of India's leading banks puts out an ad saying, open to all graduates except those from the 2020 pass out batch, because they didn't go into college. They didn't finish college, or 2021 batch because they didn't go into college. So you are going to face those challenges if you are hitting the job market. Separately, a lot of the skills that you were being taught were meant to be skills that are meant to be from a physical contact perspective. Now you need to upgrade. You need to learn how to use your phone, which you used to use only for social media, to now do your job. A lot of people are reluctant to change, or even the colleges often struggle. And I teach at a few colleges as a guest faculty. It is reluctance to change because that's worked for them. So to, in some way, contradict what Ariel said, you stick to what you do, but you also look for answers beyond. What she meant by stick to what you do is stick to your strengths. That doesn't mean you stick to the same path. You will have to change. Okay, the guy who learned print journalism may have to now learn how to write for a website. So you tell him that he has to create a portfolio in this way. One of the things that I encouraged a lot of my students to do was create online groups, either on WhatsApp or on LinkedIn, for these kind of jobs. And eventually, it's initially started with some 15 students from one college, but eventually, they used to put up those postings. So more and more students from other colleges were posting. Then what happened is that became an avenue where everybody started posting. So someone like me who has an opening will go and post on LinkedIn or wherever, and that person will post it on this group saying, okay, all those who want to apply. There is a multiplier effect. You get talent that you can get that you couldn't get earlier, because I am okay with people working in a hybrid model today. Around 23 states is where people from, who work for me are currently sitting in. That would never have happened. I would have insisted they come down to Bombay or Delhi and work from there. So you are able to tap talent which could not leave those cities earlier from those spaces. So there are opportunities also within this. If people can upskill, find out where your gaps are. I think that's very, very important. So while you play to your strengths, figure out what has changed. For example, a lot of people have gone and done coding recently. Coding has taken off in a big way. But likewise, there's a lot of people who never could do what we are doing just now, sit in front of a screen and speak. They'll have to plug this gap. So I would encourage students to figure out, because now you have one shot at an interview and it's a Zoom. There is no other opportunity to impress. You can't walk in, you can't dress up. Max, you can wear a shirt. There's very little gap that you have to impress. Your CV lands, you get a Zoom link. Okay, how do you impress? So these are the things that you have to do. You have to make sure that you have the right opening. You make sure your letters are good. These are the suggestions that you can make. And I'm talking about very, very practical suggestions. One of the things mentors can do, and Ariel spoke about it, is talk. Okay, the biggest risk they run as students is, or young people who are out of jobs maybe, is they lost. They don't need you to give them direction. They know what their strengths are, but you just need to maybe sit with them so that they can talk about their strengths and realize that those are their strengths. 99% of the time, people find their own answers. What you do is guide them to those answers. Take them, through the process of finding that answer. And as someone who's done that for many years, spoken to people, you get better at doing it. So you get better at leading people to find their own answers. I think it's very important that people who have done something in their lives, or who are considered people who people look up to, it's very important to walk up to those people, be reaching out to people who are not reaching out to you also. That's also a very important thing. So I sent a mail in my one of the colleges I was teaching and saying, if any of y'all haven't gotten placed yet, do drop me a line. Okay, I'm not promising you a job. I'm promising that I will reach out to you and help. People need to know somebody's looking out for them. I think that's very, very important. If we can do that, and I'm not talking out of the top of my hat or something, these are things that you can do. People need to upskill. People need to learn from others. People need to see what is the market right now. Go on LinkedIn, spend time, figure out what are the job openings that are coming. Are they allied areas where you can get in? A journalist student can get into public relations. Journalism student can get into digital marketing. Maybe that can be a stopgap till you figure out what you need to do next. There are openings, content writing, various other things that can happen. From there, you can navigate your path back, but it gets your confidence going again. And that's very, very important at this point. Sorry, long answer to that.
I hope it's very insightful. But you have pointed out a very pertinent area. The gap is actually widening, and a lot of communication that's happening between people at the same time is not happening at all. Some of people have gone into their share. So Arya, you have worked with wider communities. What do you suggest that this wider gap that's merging because of COVID, a lot of communities are getting separate, and people tend to get isolated in this situation? What do you suggest? What can we do to bring people together and help communities have healthy relations with each other as we are coming out of this this COVID situation gradually, as people are getting vaccinated and even though taking precautions? So what do you suggest we can do? And for others who have joined us, if you also have any questions, you can drop that in the chat box and we will take it to our panelist here. Thank you.
I think one of my favorite things to do is create safe spaces. It's where I know there is a fear of infection, a fear of widespread things, but at least, like I was talking about, it's not in a job context, but at least in a locality concept, especially working with young adults. It's very, very important for them to have safe spaces to go to. So I believe my home is one of those safe spaces that they can feel free to walk in anytime and say, hey, can I get a cup of coffee? Can I just drop by? And I think we are increasingly in need of those kind of safe spaces, whether digital or physical. As much as physical, if we can open up our homes, that's great. But I've had really good success stories coming out of the digital safe spaces as well, where we do cross country mentoring, where I have a kid who was with me here in Kottayam, had moved to the UK, and this transitions with them. And this ongoing dialogue, like Bijoy was saying, people need to know that their voice is heard, and that, I think, allowing people to just know that their voice is heard, that a word that kept coming to my mind this morning is, you are far more precious than rubies. So if you're far more precious than rubies, then we need to treat people just like that. They are precious, they're valued, and I think safe spaces are the way to go. The fear of infection will still be there, but the blood of Christ still trumps that.
Well, thank you, Ariel. I want to ask you, you have talked about creating safe spaces, but within these safe spaces, people are very stressed out to interact because they are still struggling with the fear to get infected, and they're still struggling how to even get together with all this fear that they can still get infected even after they have taken vaccination. So what do you suggest, what these young people can do to overcome these fears, and how can they look at this stress and how they can deal it probably?
I think from young people's point of view, it's, yes, they still have the fear, but it's still our job to keep extending the invitation and say, hey, I'm still here. Hey, I'm still listening. Hey, it's still your choice. It's still their choice whether they want to venture out or not, but it's still our job to keep extending the invitation. Jesus said, come follow me. He didn't say, oh, Peter, look at me and and then you decide whether to follow me. He extended the invitation. So it is still our job to extend invitations in whatever possible, extend invitations in whatever way possible in this time and age.
Thank you, Ariel. As we even extend this offer for worship, Father Sam, I want to ask you, how can we understand this situation when church extends invitation for people to participate in worship, but they are afraid to join worship, and some of the people, they come with reason that we can obviously join an online service. What is the need to gather together? Because some of them are genuinely afraid of this infection, but others, they think that they are more comfortable to stay within their home. So how can we understand worship in current times, because it's very much linked to our reality?
That's a very interesting question for me, because my son asked that question. You're the one who conducted all these Zoom services. Now, why do you want us to go back to church? Because our country opened up last Sunday for worship. So it's a very, very tricky question, because we told our people worship is possible online. We boasted about virtual space. We quoted the scriptures, worship God in truth and spirit, not necessarily physically. And now we are telling them, come back to church. So it's not fair to have this dual message to our people. So again, coming back to what have we learned from COVID? Our understanding of church definitely is questioned, because we were able to cross many boundaries because of the virtual space. Many who could not never be part of a live service because of their infirmities or because of their illnesses were able to be part of a worshiping community during COVID. Many who were in isolated areas, not only within the country, but in the Middle East, in so many other areas, were able to be part of that church that they belonged to 10 years ago, 30 years ago, 50 years ago. So when we go back to post-COVID, are we going to forget what we did during the last 2 years? So that's a very important question. Secondly, as you rightly said, there are others who have become lazy now. They don't want to get up in the morning and dress themselves up and come to church. So that is also an issue, because they go out for all other things. They go to the market, they go to the supermarket, they will even go to the gym. they will go to the cinema, but when it comes to church, they might not, they might be reluctant, because as you rightly said, they might be able to follow so many services from home. Very often when you have these YouTube services, you just click to see what the message is and then go out. So that type of culture, click culture, is also very much has become part of today's reality. But of course, we have to also reassure people that when they come to our spaces, whether it is a youth gathering, whether it is a time of worship, whether it is a workshop, that we will also not be foolhardy and not practice uh, the health guidelines. We have to ensure that we continue practicing washing our hands, wearing face masks when there is a threat of a spread, practicing social distancing. So if the church can do that, I'm sure people will have confidence in coming back, because uh, in our place, in our gatherings, we use all five senses. Here we are using only two senses. We are using our eyes, we are using our ears. But where are the other senses? We don't feel, we don't touch, we don't smell, we don't taste. So those senses are also part of our lives. And in at least I, who belong to an Anglican tradition, we use incense, we use so much of drama. We at the Holy Communion we receive both the bread and the wine. So all senses are part of worship. So we need to affirm the fact that God has given us five senses, and if we can still make use of it, we need to worship God using all our senses. And of course, we should not forget the lessons we learned. This webinar, if we had to organize this as SACYN in the core group, we would have discussed this for 1 year, looked at all the finances and postponed it to the next year. And then we would have had to have it, and Pakistan might not have been able to come, or India might not have been able to go to Pakistan, and we would all had to travel to Dubai to make sure all of us are there. So we are able to overcome so many obstacles. And of course, sorry, this answer is a bit long. The final point is that during this lockdown, we also learned that when we meet in small groups, people talk, people engage. When they come for service, they don't. Or when they come for a big youth gathering, they don't. But when we have these breakout rooms, when we have smaller gatherings, people talk. People are able to really engage with all of us, each other. So that is something, again, we need to take forward.
Thank you, Father Sam. Thank you. That's an insightful answer, and we are still finding our way to it. But I also believe that a lot of young people are still struggling, and they look it in a different way as well. So, Bijoy, can you give us give a glimpse
Sorry,
of what
I
you
know this
think
is
of
Father
this
Sam's
situation as a
answer,
young
but
person?
sorry, as someone who also looks at this, I think churches who were there for their communities during the pandemic will see people flock back. The flock will come back. When they were going through their worst times, was the church there? Was the church reaching out? When I say church, I don't mean just the priest. I mean, were you there to ensure that somebody had food at their house? So many churches did good jobs with kids, ensuring people got kids, people got medicines. So many youth groups did, very good volunteer work of picking up and dropping stuff, just going to the markets and buying stuff and giving it to to the community, going and checking up on people who are in isolation wards and dropping something so that they are not going through a bad phase. Priests who conducted chat sessions, community sessions where they reached out to people. I think those churches will see people come back. And I think there are benefits out of that. It's not always possible. Like Father Sam said, today he knows that he can do a face to face with Ravi sitting in, another part of the world. And he can use that if on that day his timing doesn't permit him or his priestly commitment doesn't permit him to go there. That is still engagement. I think those are important positives that we must not leave behind and force people to go back to the old ways. Sure, you can still stream, but the idea being that the church is not just a church, it's also a community. And once you see it from that perspective, that collective nature of the church must not be forgotten. I think there is a lot of strength that we draw from each other. From, like, I always say this, my parents, their social circle is church. Without that church, they don't have a social circle. They are the ones dying to get back into church, and they are the ones that have been kept out the longest. You know, we were allowed in, but they were not allowed in. So there are whole generations that live on the community around the church. And if the church has been good for their community during these tough times, I think it'll be a big factor of hope and a big factor that leads them to come back in a big way.
And yes, that's what is going to happen, I believe, in the future. But a lot of positive things are there. I think Reverend Vinod, there's a question or a comment. Okay, so you have talked about a positive side of things. Bijoy, how do you see young people can cope this situation? What positive steps they can take in this situation? If I like, I'm curious, what will you suggest to young people?
Sure. One of the things that you could have done, and I mentioned those kind of kits and stuff that you can do, that's for your immediate community. A lot of young people, and I see comments about people being toxic, don't join the rat race. Okay, this is the bad time. Okay, don't join that race of people saying negative things. Lift people, lift people. If you have nothing good to add in a conversation, don't say anything. I have learned this the hard way in my life. Always, when we did a session on social media, I said the same thing. Don't add to a conversation where you're not adding value to someone. Okay, you have to add value, and add value in a good way, in a positive way. I think most people will find that they need to upskill. Now, it's like an investment. Invest in yourselves. It may be so many people, again, advantage. Someone like me has gone back to study. Someone like you has gone back to study. We have taken the opportunity, taken the time, realized now this is a privilege because we've been able to sit at home, we are balancing work, of course, aware of the privilege. So not forgetting that we are from a slightly more privileged background, but there are people who will have to upskill to be relevant. Sometimes they may need guidance. That's where we come in. Someone asked me what kind of course should you do. I've learned advertising. I said, I think digital marketing is taking off. Maybe you can consider this small course, which is a cheap course, but at least give you the tools to apply, give you the basic tools to apply. I think a lot of young people have a lot of energy, and that energy have been kept indoors for 2 years. They've had to, the same parents that they used to, see in the morning and at late at night, they've had to spend 24 hours with. People like me who've been out of our homes for the last 16 years of our work life, all across the country have been sitting at home with parents and kids who've grown up during this pandemic. All of these are challenges. Okay. People like us need to also step out. I think you need to create, just to go back to Ariel's answer, safe spaces. The safe space can be a person. It doesn't need to only be a community or whatever. It can be one person who's a safe space. I find, because possibly I've been there and I'm vocal, and I find a lot of people reaching out to me because I am like that, rather than to the people who actually can help them, because they don't step up. So then often I have to then connect that person and this person and tell them that you need to talk to this guy. He wants to get into law. You need to do this. I think there's a strong element of mentorship and counseling that needs to come in. I think one of the things that I have done at home, and I think a lot of people would have done, is teaching the elders to also adjust to the new normal. Not only Russian kids, they need to know how to click. They need to know how to log in. They need to know how to ensure that they don't miss a service, set reminders. They are at a different age. Okay, they need to know how to book online, order online. So you try and find the silver linings. There are a lot of us who can do all of those things. As an individual young person, there's a lot of upskilling that will need to happen. The world has changed. You're best equipped to do it. You are the best equipped to do it because you're changing with the world. Your 80-year-old or your 70-year-old person is not going to be doing that. Your 45-year-old will also struggle. A 37-year-old will also struggle. So who's going to be able to adapt to the change fastest? The 20-year-old, the 25-year-old, maybe the 30-year-old. They are the ones who are going to be making the changes, and they'll make it quickly. So don't lose hope. That's the first thing. And look for advice, and then go ahead and upskill. I think I'm going to keep talking about upskill. It's not just about going back to education, but it's about skills also. You'll need to learn new skills because the world has changed.
Yeah, indeed, the world has changed. Ariel, I want to ask you, in this changing world, what positive steps you can suggest youth can take to handle this changing situation?
I think for me, as a person who follows Christ, the first thing is to go back to Him every day of the week. That has to be my foundation. And for me, worship has always, that private worship that I have with God has really kind of I wouldn't say cemented, but like got me rooted. And it's not just a motion that I go through every day, but it centers me. It centers me for what's coming, and it also enables me to hear from God what's coming next. So I'm not caught off guard 90% of the time, at least of whatever limited knowledge of that I have of myself. Um, and and so that enables me to set a routine in place, and it's not being off the routine, but routines are these little things that you do. And the one thing that I was trying to emphasize before about doing what you know how to do is about consistency. There's nothing stronger than consistency in doing those things. The little things amount to much. So whether, like Bijay was saying, upskilling, if you do those little things consistently, it will amount to much. So one of the greatest positives that I've had of this season is because of these little things, I've been able to build far more relationships than I ever fathomed I was capable of doing. I'm generally a person who is like, hey, let's bring in a hug, and let's do it, let's pump it up, life of the party kind of person. But I had to really learn how to listen, to find the little things that connect people and create bridges that that cause a positive effect, or a positive, grander effect. That it's not just for the next 5 minutes, but it's for the lasting, consistent role that you have to play as an entrepreneur, a lasting role that you have to play as a mentor, as a daughter, as somebody who has responsibilities on their plate. And as growing believers in Christ, those responsibilities keep amounting to much more, because to those who are faithful in little, much more will be added. So as much more is added, more consistency is required of us, more faithfulness is asked of us. And it's just going back to the little things. Find little things that you can work on. Do it differently each time to see what works for you, and what works for the new relationships that you're building over this period of time.
Yeah, thank you, Ariel. You have pointed out a lot of things, and one of the things you have pointed out is going back to Lord, and finding our rootedness in Lord. And there is a lot of need to find that amidst this changing situation. So, Father Sam, I want to ask you what steps you suggest to young people, what positive steps they can take to find this rootedness in Christ, and also moving towards this new situation as Christian, as young Christians, or as young people who are facing this new challenging world.
Yes, so of course, Ariel very rightly said, going back to the basics, doing the little things right. So spending time alone with God, I think that is something that is very, very basic to all of us as followers of Christ, to have a personal relationship with Christ. So, of course, for that you must know Christ. And one way of knowing Christ is to read the Bible, to spend time not only telling or giving Jesus a wish list, but listening to his still small voice. So these are ancient practices of the church, practices that Jesus himself followed. And this time of COVID for many has actually enabled them to go back to this root or these basic practices. Also, many who were dealing with loss found it very difficult to pray for very obvious reasons. And it was more challenging for us to uh, root them back to religion and faith and Jesus, because we have not trained them to question God. We forget that Jesus himself questioned God. My God, why hast thou forsaken me? A very, very fundamental question that Jesus asked from the cross. So we need to encourage our young people to grapple with questions, to struggle with God as a friend, as a mentor, as their father, mother, as their uh, soulmate. So when you have that sort of relationship, you will not feel abandoned, basically. Uh, of course, there's another challenge. We as Christians believe in community, and COVID did not allow community. Even in the resurrection narratives, we know that Thomas missed out on the resurrected Christ because he was all alone mourning. It was only when he came back to be with the other disciples that the resurrected Christ appeared, revealed himself to Thomas. So that is something that people are missing. At least people missed during the height of the lockdown and when people lost their loved ones. So of course we were trying to find community by speaking to them, by, as Bijoy said, looking at their immediate needs. But that sense of community, the sense of feel, touch, presence, in a sense was missing. But I remember when I lost my brother 23 years ago, one of my mentors told me, we understand it will be difficult for you to pray. And they said, we don't expect you to pray. Just say the Lord's Prayer. Just say the Lord's Prayer. Nothing more. So that we don't get out of the ritual of praying, even at difficult times. The ritual of reading the Bible in the morning, spending time in prayer, reading the Bible in the night, spending time with prayer, saying family prayers. Again, something that has become a lost tradition that has re-emerged in many families during this lockdown. Family prayers. Again, it might look like a ritual, but these rituals are very important. Singing hymns together as a family. So, so these are all signs of hope for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Father Sam. And this hope is what we need amidst all this situation. I would like to invite comments or questions if anyone have any question or comment they want to make. The floor is open. It need to be very brief and precise. If there isn't any question, you do.
Just nothing major to add to what Ariel and Father Sam and what we have been discussing throughout. I think a lot of despondency that was there is now lifting as things change around us. People are getting back to doing stuff, but there were a lot of good things that happened during this phase. One of the things that Father Sam said, family prayers. We've done it always, but I've just never been there. So I've now been part of the family prayer for the last 2 years because I've been away. So by the time I reach home, everybody slept. So your kids are learning. So there are communities being formed. There are new things happening. Sitting down to dinner together. Lost art, completely lost art. So much chatter happens. Switch off your televisions for a change. Have conversations. I think that's extremely important. Father Sam shared his personal experience when I lost my brother 22 years ago, ironically. Same. What was the only way to get out of that? Just surround yourself, like Reena was saying earlier, surround yourself with good people. At that point of time, you do not need people who will, drag you down, and find solace somewhere. For me, and for the last 20, 25 years of my life, the one verse that always works for me is cast your burdens unto Jesus, for he cares for you. 1 Peter 5:7, a very common verse, but for me it just resonates. Find something for yourself. This is, it may sound very idyllic and very out there, but honestly, it's the small things that matter. Just know that there are people out there that care for you. Trust me, if you ask, if you if you reach out, there are people who are happy to step in and help. I think that moment, people must not forget that there are. If you reach your hand out, I always tell people in Bombay, if you're traveling by train in a crowded train, if you reach your hand out, someone will help you get in. Okay, it's true. It's exactly that. The train's going, it's picking pace, but there is hope. There are people out there who care, and genuinely there is hope. As long as we don't let ourselves get despondent, there is hope. So, sorry, I stepped in again at the end over there, but thanks, Ravi, for letting me do it.
No, that's something very insightful, and I would like to request if any of the panelists wants to say anything in the end, or because I haven't seen any question in the chat box, or still, but if you want to add to what we've been discussing, final short comments, then we draw this discussion to a closure.
Yeah, I was just the last thing that came to my mind is again, what I loved about this discussion, again, what I love about this community that we have and network that we have and the bridges that we build is based on love God and love people, love his people, love your neighbor as yourself. And we have seen, I think that's been one of the biggest silver linings is we've seen people from all over the world just step in and represent Jesus in that way. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons for me to say that there is hope, to see Jesus in people.
And I believe that this is the greatest hope we have, to continue to see Jesus among people, doing small things small steps we can take during this pandemic, and to continue working on things we are working on while exploring new avenues, and also having strong faith in God in this troubling times, in this troubling journey, will sustain us, and we will find our hope in Christ. There is a question, and yeah, I haven't seen that. Yeah, maybe Stephen, you can read it. If there is a question.
Yeah. We live in a highly polarized world.
Yes.
It's more toxic today than it has been in decades, and it shows no signs of abating. How to remain hopeful during such a situation?
Thank you, Father Sam. I invite any of the panelists who would like to respond to this question.
I think I think that the world being polarized is again a question of perspective and how you position yourself. So are you looking at the world through the world's eyes? Or are you looking at the world through Jesus' eyes? Are you asking for fresh eyes, fresh perspective every day? I think these are maybe some of the questions we can ask ourselves as we have a dialogue with God and have a dialogue with people, especially when we look at people. So if we look at people and the polarization with fresh eyes, with God's eyes, then we're able to spin it on its head and bring forth the gold. It can be a very dark piece of charcoal, but there can be a diamond somewhere in it.
Yes, Father Sam.
Yeah, of course, we shouldn't be a pessimistic society. We are optimists. We believe in resurrection even after death. So we are a people of hope. So even if the world gives polarization and pessimism, I think we believe in the good of people, because all people are God's creation. So I think we shouldn't get into this whole polarization drama that the media and social media creates, and algorithms also help with that. All the tech savvy young people will be able to tell us more about it. But I think that shouldn't also stop us from talking up for people who are marginalized and victimized and victims of injustice. So that is there, but also remembering that we believe in a God of love, and love dispels fear. Thank you.
I think Ravi got booted out.
I think Ravi is facing an issue. Anyways, I don't think there are any more questions. Prakash?
There is no more questions. So
I think Ravi is back. Ravi.
I'm sorry, I lost my connection here, so I was not able to hear what happened.
No, that's cool. Ravi, any more? I don't see any more questions.
We don't have any
time bound. We are at
Yeah,
time
so
bound.
yes, we are. Let's draw this discussion to a conclusion. Thank you so much. I would like to thank Ariel, Father Sam, Vijay for your time. You guys have given a lot of input, and I would like to thank everyone else who has joined us for this this webinar. Thank you for bringing in your personal experience, your professional experience, and also bringing a lot of insight for young people. And I believe that you have rightly pointed out that we need to be consistent in small steps we are taking, and sticking our hope in Christ, and also staying faithful to Christ, and also what you have pointed out, continue to dialogue with the Word and with the world at the same time, and we'll find our hope in Christ amidst this whole situation. Thank you so much for joining today. Hope to see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Steve, I think you can stop the online recording so that then the ones who are here and who want to catch